Drop shipping is a scam. Is that a fact
Hmm.
or a myth?
Myth.
Is drop shipping dead in 2023? Fact or
No,
myth?
I would say that that's a myth. There's plenty of people who are doing this really successfully.
Fact or myth? Drop shipping is a get rich quick scheme.
That's a myth. You got to put in the hard work.
I had the pleasure to interview Paul J Lipsky. He's a well-known dropshipper and I consider him a great mentor. I've been following his career for a very long time and we talked about, what makes a dropshipper successful, how do you become profitable, how do you find virtual assistants, and everything else in between.
Today, I have a special guest, the one and only Paul J Lipsky. Paul, I'll give you 30 seconds, give us a quick introduction about who you are, what you do.
Yeah, well, Daniel, thanks so much for having me on. Pleasure to be here. It was nice to hang out with you and chat with you. I started drop shipping, I think about 6 or 7 years ago at this point. I've lost count, and started on eBay. I was looking for a way to get out of my job or to supplement my job just to be able to retire early or something. So I found eBay drop shipping after a lot of other failed experiments. And what stuck out for me about it was that it actually works, and it's pretty straightforward and simple.
Awesome. And we'll learn more about you and everything that you've been doing, most recently. Let's start giving some value to everyone that is watching right now. And if you're just tuning in, make sure to like the video and subscribe. What are some of those key points that you think has helped you to get to where you are right now when it comes to drop shipping?
A couple of things come to mind right away. In my opinion, really the one main thing is product research. And then the second thing after that would be learning how to optimize your listings in a way to actually get them ranked higher so people actually buy them. So I think those are kind of like the key skills that you have to master to be successful with this. Community and just masterminding and talking with other people who are interested in this.
And I think a lot of people overlook that aspect, masterminding with other like-minded people who are doing the same thing that you're doing. And, definitely that helps tremendously. So I hope everyone who's watching is paying attention. The other thing that sticks out as well is you saying product research. So just maybe spending a couple more minutes on that. Do you think most beginners like overlook how important, the product research aspect of it when it comes to drop shipping really is?
I think most people realize how important it is, but I think most people don't realize how much practice it takes. They watch our videos about how to do product research, and I don't want to come across as like not being humble or anything, but I think we do make it look easy because we've been doing it for so long. So then people jump on, eBay and like, okay, this is going to be easy. I'm just going to be able to quickly find products. But, we're bringing a lot of experience to it, having done this for so long. So we have those skills, and those are skills you need to develop as time goes on. This method that I use to do product research is the same method I've been using for like 5 or 6 years. But in the beginning, I was really bad at it. A lot of the products I found weren't selling well. And so it took me time to really figure it out and to become good at it. So you have to be patient. Don't think that just because you spend a couple of hours looking for products and they're not selling after 12 hours, that this doesn't work. That's not the way that this works. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. These are skills you have to develop. And even if you don't feel like you're actually learning something or that you're getting better, I promise you that you are. Every time you go in there to do product research, every time you sell an item and every time you don't sell an item, you're learning things and becoming better. You just got to be patient with the process, right?
Absolutely. And I really sucked at product research in the beginning. And that was kind of one of the main reasons why I even considered quitting drop shipping. So if any of you are struggling with product research, let us know down in the comments. We want to know what are those pain points, what are those problems, and we can, offer you some help or even answer some of your questions. And I think everyone will find that very valuable. Paul, moving on, there's something else I want to ask you. And this is about what advice would you give yourself, the Paul from, 2017, 2016, when you first started drop shipping, knowing what you know today, what advice would you give yourself that will, I guess, put you in that position to achieving some of the success you've already, been able to experience?
Yeah, I guess I would say I would tell myself, don't overcomplicate stuff and run with what works. Because when I started to see success with eBay dropshipping, After a while, like I would say maybe like a year, I was like, okay, what more do I have to do? And I just felt like in order to get more return in terms of profit, that required me to do more work, that it required like more struggle. And when I would look back, I would notice that the things that were really working, and when I say working, that means making me money, were the things that always worked, the kind of simple stuff. And it was all this new stuff I was trying, making things more complicated than they had to be, that actually weren't working at all. When you find something that works, stick with it and make that like the core of what you do. And then, spend like 10% of your energy on more complicated, different stuff. And don't give up, and don't try to overcomplicate what's already working. So like a good example of this is I made it way too complicated for one eBay store, I had like 5 or 6 virtual assistants. And when I scaled that back to just one virtual assistant to run the entire store, not only did it work, but it also made my life a lot easier as well. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, where, I was overthinking it. I was overanalyzing it, and I was just making it more complicated than it needed to be.
Sometimes I think we can become like our own worst enemies, and definitely want to put your best foot forward and just go and learn. Even if it's a mistake, a misstep, it's still an opportunity for you to learn. I'm
Yeah.
actually glad that you brought up virtual assistants, because I get asked a lot about virtual assistants. So maybe this is something we can talk about in the video a little bit later on. Maybe you can give us some tips. So we'll wait a little longer. So we look at a little teaser. We'll get Paul to give us his secret sauce when it comes to virtual assistants. The other thing I want to talk to you about: do most people fail at drop shipping, or they just quit too soon? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. So I'm glad you asked the question that way, because when you said the first half of the question, do most people fail at drop shipping? I was thinking in my head, I have to be honest and say yes. But when you finished that sentence, I was like, I like the reframe on that, because I think you're absolutely right, what you're implying. I think that most people just give up too early on it. And I know that because I was there. I was in a position, and I know you were just sharing the same thing, where I wanted to give up. I was like 4 or 5 months in, and I was like, I'm just not getting the traction that I want. I'm working a full-time job. And on top of that, I have this other business that's like a full-time job I'm doing that I'm barely getting paid for. And I was ready to give up. And that's when I connected with the community, started talking with people, actually met them in person, which was huge, just to kind of interact with people. And that really pushed me. And I was like, I got to keep trying this. And that motivation really allowed me to push through that, and then eventually see success.
Please, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and all of, Paul's links, will be linked down below. If you want to learn more about what Paul is doing, we'll have everything linked down below. I want to come back to the virtual assistant. So a lot of people always ask me about virtual assistants. When is the right time to hire them? How much should I pay them? Are they trustworthy? Is it worth my investment? So I wanted to say that I wanted to bring value to everyone watching this video. So as a pro drop shipper, do you have a tip that maybe you've been keeping close to your chest, closely guarded? Maybe you can give us a little hint of something that you would tell someone who is trying to get the first virtual assistant and they don't know where to start.
Yeah, so there is a lot of information out there, but what I think a lot of people talk about is kind of like the how of how to get a virtual assistant, like which website to use and how much to pay them and stuff like that, which is all stuff you need to know. But what I like to talk about is how and the importance of finding a rock star VA. And that's a virtual assistant who is going to go above and beyond to make your life easier and make your store better. And it's a virtual assistant that, because of the relationship that you get with them and how awesome they are, it's one that you're going to have with you for a long time. And there's so much value in that.
And how would you help, guide someone that has sort of the kind of like the trust issue, right? I need to give them access to my accounts, passwords, things like that. What has helped you in the past, I guess, kind of get over that? Because you do have to share information.
Yes. Yeah. So the analogy I love, this is by David Dang Vu, who is kind of the great grandfather of eBay dropshipping, way back in the day. And the analogy he used is that if you had a store like on Main Street and you were hiring someone, you wouldn't give them the keys to your store right away, for them to be able to walk in whenever they want, or the keys to the register, rather. You would instead, but you would still hire them to do a task inside the store. And it's the same thing, right? You don't have to give them the password to your eBay account on day one. So the good news is that with the way that dropshipping works, in modern days, especially with like eBay, there's so much software that we use, whether that's like AutoDS and like Zeek Analytics. And with that software, you can give your virtual assistants access to that, and they can work on your stores without ever logging into your eBay account. So that would be my first suggestion, especially because when you're hiring a VA, the first thing that I recommend that you have a VA help you with is product research and listing products. And they can easily do that just by you giving them access to Zeek and AutoDS, and they'll never have to log into eBay. There's very little damage that they can, or permanent damage that they can do with access to that software. But the more important thing is, yeah, I guess if they go into AutoDS, they could delete all your products or change your prices. But why would they do that? Why would someone do that? Especially someone that you've hired and they're looking to get paid by you. So if someone was paying you, would you then go in and purposely mess up their business? Like, it just doesn't make sense. So I've always felt comfortable giving virtual assistants access to like AutoDS to just be able to log in and list products. And that's kind of the first step because it's just so easy and simple to do.
I've heard stories, from people about their virtual assistant experience being a horrible one, but I think that sometimes that's really the exception and not the rule. Is online jobs PH still the best place to find a good, capable, Filipino virtual assistants? I mean, those are the ones that I like to use, the ones that I work with the most, never had an issue. They're very trustworthy people, hard workers. Or have any new websites surfaced that maybe you want to, let us know about?
No, onlinejobs.ph is the one I use. I love it. And that's where I hire all mine from now.
So I want to talk to you now about making money, right? Because that's the reason why we're all here, dropship. Like we're here because we want to make money at the end of the day. So when it comes to, becoming profitable, and again, going back to your journey, your experience, how long did it take you before you actually, became profitable, when you were actually making money drop shipping?
Gosh, so I started January 2017, but I think it took me like 3 or 4 months before I was making, at least $100 profit. I think before that, I was kind of like breaking even, kind of limping along, but it took me a few months before I was even at like $100 profit. Part of the reason for that was because the information that I was getting, like the course I had taken, was out of date by a couple of years, and things changed. So I was kind of following an outdated map. So yeah, it took me a few months, but then during the summer that year is when it really took off. And that's because I figured out product research. I wasn't really doing any before that. And I was like, oh, I finally get this. I finally understand a way to find products that people actually want to buy. So once I did that, it was like, in terms of growth.
So would you say 4 months time would be kind of like typical results, or would you say that was, you were maybe a little bit of an outlier? Like it may take people a little bit longer than that.
It's hard to give a straight answer on that because there's people that I've seen who have done really well, really fast, much faster than I did. And they're starting to make, decent money and, maybe a couple $100 profit their first month. And other people, it takes them 5 months or 6 months, but then, they stick with it and now they have thriving stores. So yeah, I don't know if there really is like a typical kind of timeline?
I think it varies by individual because everyone has different skill sets that they bring. Some people might be very good at sales. They know how to sell. Some people might be very good at, marketing, so they know how to market the product. A lot of times it's kind of like the first question people ask is like, oh, so how long is it going to take me to make money? And it's like,
Mhm.
well, it varies a lot on your effort, your time, how much do you know? And sometimes it's kind of like a misconception, whether or not dropshipping works as well, because they might quit too soon, like we just talked about earlier in the video. And there you go. There you have it. That's the great Paul Lipsky. Make sure to follow him. He just 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. That is an accomplishment. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you for taking the time. And any parting words before we go?
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for having me on. It's a ton of fun to chat with you. And, kind of like what I said before, community is so important. And especially with something like drop shipping, where you can do it online from your computer, it can be a bit isolating. And sometimes I get lonely, kind of just sitting in my office and here just typing away by myself. So I appreciate you having me on just to be able to chit chat and talk to a real person. Yeah. And I guess that's my parting advice, get into a community, talk to other people. That's the ultimate motivation.
I agree. So thank you all for watching. Like the video. It helps the channel. And the best part of it, totally free. It's not going to cost you anything. And if you have any questions, please let us know down in the comments. Answer them the best way. Bye.